Hi everyone, and welcome to the Menopause Mindset Monday. Although it's not Monday, it's Wednesday because Monday things didn't happen. So this is where we explore topics related to the menopause in all of its colours and all of its variations. So menopause doesn't have a great rap, does it? There's a lot of doom and gloom around the menopause. If you go online, if you look at articles or videos around the menopause or ask other women about the menopause, they're telling you about the hot flushes, they're telling you it's not very nice, the mood swings, the achy joints, whatever it is, the sleepless nights. So there's a lot of bad rap around the menopause, and the reason I wanted to set up this group is to bust some myths, but to also enable you to understand that it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. So if you are a winner, if you don't feel like a winner right now, but if you want to be a winner, then join me on this journey because we're going to have a good time. So as you can see, things are probably looking a little bit different at the moment. I am using my brand new webcam. I've had it for a couple of weeks, but I've had some technical issues. So I cannot see who is watching. What I need you to do is wave at me or leave a comment, and then I will know who's watching and we can interact better. So do let me know if you're watching, and remember, please comment, please ask me a question, and I will get back to you. So what I would like to say is please watch till the end, because as always I'm saving the best till last. Okay, so today's talk is called How to Ease Fear and Anxiety During the Menopause. So this is for you if maybe you've suddenly developed fears or phobias that you didn't used to have, maybe like driving or going out in public, or medical phobias. Maybe you are unable to do the things that you used to do quite easily, quite freely, and without thinking very much. Maybe you have lost your confidence and it's stopping you from progressing in your career. Maybe it's stopping you from going on dates. Maybe it's stopping you from meeting other people or networking or moving yourself forward. So, someone's given me a like, yay! I don't know who you are. Let me know who you are. Drop a comment. So, if you have watched any of my videos before, you will know that I'm very passionate about the 3 pillars of menopause, which are health, relationships, and career, money, finances, that business, that sort of stuff. So today we're not talking about any pillar in particular, but we're talking more about mindset, which I believe sort of overarches the whole 3. When we deal with our fear and anxiety, we can become much more confident in all of those 3 areas, especially career. And a lot of women at perimenopause and menopause are looking for that new direction. They're looking for more meaning and purpose in their life, but the crippling anxiety and fear can actually hold you back. So this is a very, very, very important subject, and this is why I really wanted to do a deep dive into this today to help you answer some questions, ask some questions, get some questions answered, and just to open up the conversation. So there will be opportunities for you to comment if you have something to say, and I hope you do. So you personally might not have noticed a link between increased anxiety and fear around menopause or perimenopause. You might not have linked that the 2 are connected, but when we look at it, they really are connected. So I'm going to read you a statistic. So there was a psychiatry resident called Stacey Graham who worked at the University of Massachusetts, and she reports in a survey of nearly 3,500 women aged between 50 and 79 that panic attacks were most common among women in the menopause, which is quite astounding. In a similar story with depression, investigators from the Harvard study of moods and cycles recruited perimenopausal women aged 36 to 44 with no history of major depression. They then followed up these women for 9 years to detect new onsets of major depression and bingo. According to Graham, they found that women who enter the perimenopause were twice as likely to have clinically significant depressive symptoms as women who were not yet perimenopausal. So it's twice as likely, which is amazing. So we really do need to look at mental health at perimenopause, and this is my field. Hi Ruth, good to see you watching. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, so this is my passion. I've always loved mental health. I started off as a hypnotherapist, then became very interested in the perimenopause, did a certification, and I am still learning. I am always learning about hormones, and I want to gather as many stories and as many anecdotes as I can from other women. You might have seen in this group that I've set up the Perimenopause Cafe. So if you live in Brighton, do come along. We've nearly sold all of the tickets. It's going to be a small little thing, but I really want to start opening up this conversation. So anxiety and fear at menopause or perimenopause. Now, what we can see through this is that the likelihood is it's not you. It's not your fault. Now, what a lot of my clients come to me at this time in their life, they think it's them. I'm the problem, I'm the issue, I'm bad, I'm not worthy, compounded by lots of self-loathing. It's my fault, I'm doing something wrong. But really, it's the hormones. It's the hormones that are fluctuating, that are changing, that are becoming unstable, that can be creating this fear. But there are things that affect the hormones as well, namely our lifestyle. So often you find that people blame the menopause for a lot of things, but it's actually made worse by their lifestyle. And I'll be coming back to this idea a lot. So let's have a discussion. Let me know some of the things that have suddenly become really scary to you as you go into the perimenopause. I see a lot of clients, like I said before, who suddenly become anxious around social activities or driving or traveling or speaking up in meetings and things like that previously they wouldn't have had issues with. So what are we going to be covering today? Well, we're going to be covering why anxiety at perimenopause increases. So hopefully you're going to get some light bulb moments. I'm going to be talking about my own experience, and I'm going to give you 4 tips. So watch to the end, because I always give you my best tips at the end. Okay. So why do we feel much more fear and anxiety at perimenopause than we did before? Well, obviously, number 1, changing hormones. We don't like it. It feels weird to the body. So what is changing? Our hormones are changing, which are causing symptoms that can feel quite scary. So we've got declining estrogen, we've got declining progesterone, but we also might have symptoms of estrogen dominance, causing breast tenderness, causing endometriosis, fibroids, excessive bleeding. And the lowering progesterone can make us feel as moody as hell. It can make us stop sleeping. Blood sugar fluctuations can have an effect on the night sweats, which we're going to go into. Headaches, tensions. So estrogen is very brain protective, it's heart protective, it's bone protective. So as the levels of estrogen decline, we're getting symptoms, we're getting things happening to us that we are not used to. We're not acclimatized to those things. So, heart palpitations, if you've never experienced one before, can feel very scary. A hot sweat, if you've never experienced one before, can feel really scary. Brain fog can feel really scary. I was chatting to a friend of mine the other day at the funeral I was at on Monday, which is why I couldn't do the Facebook Live on Monday. She basically said to me she thought she was getting dementia, and she realised now that it's the changing hormone fluctuations. So it's the changing of our experiences which causes us to clench, to contract, to feel this fear, because innately the body doesn't like change. The brain does not like change. and just put that into silent mode. We love familiarity, and that's another reason why we feel more fear and anxiety at perimenopause, because we love familiarity. Things have been ticking along nicely in our 20s and 30s, not much has been changing physically, and bang, all of a sudden things start changing. So the brain loves what is familiar. It loves certainty. It likes knowing where we stand. And at perimenopause, we are changing. The mind is really resistant to those bodily fluctuations. And so it latches onto them and it compounds them with more and more and more fear and anxiety. So it's one thing having the physical change, the hot flush or whatever, or the heart palpitation, and then it's another thing to start worrying about it and to start layering the worry on top of one another. It just compounds the stress, basically, which makes you release more adrenaline, which makes you feel more anxious. So there's a lot of resistance there, and we need to learn to let go of that resistance, actually. And there's another reason why it feels quite excessive at perimenopause, and that is control. Feelings of loss of control. So anxiety and panic make us feel out of control, and we're not used to it. We don't like feeling out of control. No human likes feeling out of control. So there's a feeling of loss of control. Maybe we've got a lot of hot emotions coming up to the surface. Maybe we've got rage. A lot of my clients do talk about feeling angry or frustrated or irritable. Maybe, our tongue gets a bit sharp and we say things we don't really mean. Maybe we're developing OCD type symptoms to try to control the outside. So as a way of trying to control the inside, and that's effectively what an OCD type behavior is. If you feel out of control on the inside, you try to control the outside to make you feel more in control. So control is an issue that makes fear and anxiety worse. We can also feel quite helpless as a result of these changes. We can feel like nobody understands us. I don't know if any of you saw that video clip that I put from Fleabag. If you haven't seen it, it's down there somewhere. You got to watch it. It's absolutely hilarious. And one of the things she says is, you're having all these hot sweats and nobody cares. And that's the feeling, isn't it? At perimenopause and at menopause, there's a feeling of helplessness. Nobody cares what you're going through. Doctors don't seem to care, and we just don't know what's going on. So that's why, we need to get together and we need to really head up our own healthcare team, and that's coming later. So I put a post on this group, I think it was today actually, you might want to go and have a look, that menopause can sometimes feel like childhood, and often in childhood we feel powerless. So as we go into menopause, that same feeling of powerlessness reminds us of the powerlessness that we felt in childhood. There is a link there. But it's really about embracing aging, thinking of aging as saging rather than aging as something that diminishes our capabilities and is something that's not very nice. We do have a lot to give as we get older, but it's the physical symptoms, I think, that make us feel powerless, because often we've all had the experience of going to the doctor and just being palmed off, right? So there are things that we can do. You can look into seeing a functional medicine practitioner to get the real specifics of your bloods done and get a real specific treatment, knowing what specific supplements you can take for yourself. It's all about getting a proper protocol done for yourself. So stress is the other thing that makes all of these changes worse, and that makes fear and anxiety come up. So with declining estrogen and progesterone, that can make us feel more stressed because adrenaline and cortisol is more prevalent. And this can have a knock-on effect, making us feel like we just can't cope. And estrogen means that there is a restriction of blood flow to the brain, and our blood vessels are constricting more, so we need to open them up. We need to exercise, we need to do hot, cold, temperature therapy, we need to literally do exercises to open our blood vessels, because stress makes things worse at perimenopause. And progesterone is the calming hormone, and it's reducing in this time, and it makes sense therefore that we are going to feel more on edge. But when you know it, it's not so bad. You can rationalize with yourself a little bit more. So if any of you have experienced anxiety, you might feel like it's never going away. And this is the experience that I had when I was 37 and my anxiety hit. I shouldn't call it my anxiety, I should know better. So it's not my anxiety, because if you say my before anything, you kind of own it, and you don't want to own your anxiety. You want to own your car, your house, your job, so you can put my before those. But don't put my before anything that you don't want to own. So anyway, where was I going with this? Yes, when anxiety hit me around 37, I had this belief that it was never going away, because it felt like it was just perpetuating all of the time. And the trouble with that belief is that you can end up believing that healing is not available to you. And when you start believing that healing is not available to you, you really block and stop the healing process. So it's really important, doesn't matter how many years you've had depression, anxiety, fears, phobias, whatever, it's important to start to cultivate the belief that it is available to you to change. Without that belief, it's really tricky to change things, because you get so stuck and you get so resistant to it. So those are the reasons why we feel much more fear and anxiety at perimenopause, because of all the changes that we're going through. The body doesn't like change, stress is high, we start to freak out at things we never used to freak out at. Our hormones are changing. And actually, even if you're not perimenopausal, if you have enough stress, you can stop your sex hormones from being optimal. So really, we do need to get that stress sorted and down, and really find ways of managing our stress levels. So really, so I want to just tell you a little bit about my story. As I said before, anxiety was the thing that, it was the first sign for me that things were changing, and that happened at around 37 years old. So I remember it well. I was in the summer holidays of my degree, so I just finished the first year, and I was at my mum's, and I remember sitting on the loo, as you do, and getting up from the loo quite quickly, and the room just span, and it felt like something had landed in my nervous system and just kind of went bang. And I started getting heart palpitations, had a bit of a panic attack, went downstairs and tried to calm down. And I remember going, couldn't really do much that day, felt absolutely exhausted, and wondered what the hell was going on. So went to the doctors, had all the tests done, thyroid, blood sugar, sex hormones, liver function, can't remember the rest, all the usual ones. Everything, of course, came back fine. And then I remember being out I was doing some songwriting with somebody, and she was somebody I really wanted to get into. She was a great songwriter, and I went to her house and we were going to collaborate and write some songs. And I remember starting to feel, again, very exhausted, very burnt out, very, very anxious, very like I just needed to get out of there, and ended up with this massive migraine, and I had to go home in the end. It was not a very nice experience, and I was really embarrassed, and I couldn't be my best self in front of her. So there's been multiple occasions when anxiety has really kicked in. I remember being out on the street just thinking, oh my God, I need to get home right now, and having to phone Graham to come and pick me up. things weren't great, and I had absolutely no idea. I could no longer exercise in the way that I wanted to. I started feeling sick when I exercised. I couldn't do hot yoga anymore. So, everything was changing, and it did not feel nice. Didn't feel nice at all. I felt so out of control, so helpless, like nobody understood, and I just felt like I had to retreat from the world, and I did actually. I didn't go out very much at all. So yeah, I felt like I was becoming hypersensitive and couldn't handle being in crowds. Didn't want to, and I didn't want to wait anywhere as well. I don't know if any of you have had that feeling. If I just didn't want to wait in a doctor's surgery, couldn't wait. It always felt like I needed to be moving. That was the only way I could use up this anxiety. And it actually, very, very interestingly, I thought about this today, it coincided with me getting into a long-term relationship. So this sort of started about a year after I got into the long-term relationship that I'm still in now. And I thought about this today. There must be a link. So before, I was moving from relationship to relationship. I'd never really had a long-term relationship before. And I think I was sort of masking a lot of internal dialogue, a lot of trauma, you could say, from the past by moving from relationship to relationship. Because when you move from relationship to relationship, just like when you eat sugar, you get a dopamine hit. It's a drug, isn't it? So it was a way of masking what was going on underneath. And when that mask wasn't there anymore, when that constant dopamine hit of moving from relationship to relationship wasn't there anymore, it was an opportunity for the anxiety to come up, come out, and be dealt with. So even though there are hormone fluctuations going on, there's still stuff. I mean, you could say that the stress, the initial stress, the rising stress caused the hormone fluctuations. We really don't know what comes first. Is it the perimenopause that comes first that causes the stress, or is it the stress that comes first that sort of makes the estrogen and progesterone decline as a result? So it's not always 100% clear, and not always necessary to know that either. I think the most important thing is to reduce stress, eat well, exercise, and sleep. And if we can get those in order, then our hormones will sort themselves out. Sometimes we need help with supplements, but that's where a functional medicine practitioner would come in. Sometimes we need help with our mindset, our behavior, our internal language patterns, and that's where a hypnotherapist like myself would come in as well. Just going to have a quick look on my phone to see if there is anyone watching who I know, so just bear with me a second. Let's see, am I live? Can I see myself on this? Sorry, this is the first time. Oh, here we are. Okay, awesome. I can see that 2 people are watching. Yay, good. All right, so here are my tips then. This is the bit you've all been waiting for, of course. Here are my tips to help you reduce anxiety and fear at perimenopause. So tip number 1, you have to educate yourself. You really, really do. It's so important. Now, the days of being told what to do by your doctor, I'm afraid, are long gone. Women need different advice. We need better advice. We need to get to the root. We need to get to the hormones. We need subtle testing. And, you women have to be at the head of your healthcare team. And you have to really invest in yourself much more than you would probably like to. We're so used to going to the doctor and having everything given to us for free. But actually, what we need to do is invest in specialist healthcare, and perhaps, hopefully, it will become part of the NHS. But for now, this is about investing in yourself and to really find out what's going on for you. Get the research done, get the numbers, get the right tests done, investigate having a Dutch test, and seek out some good functional medicine practitioners. So really educating yourself. So every woman's experience of perimenopause is different. So my experience is going to be different to your experience, and yours is going to be different to the next woman's. We all have different experiences, and there's no one size fits all approach. We need a multi-tiered approach. We need to approach the mindset. We also need to approach the physical as well, because the mind and body are inextricably linked. We know that. We cannot get away from that. So in perimenopause then, ignorance is not bliss. I'll say that again. Ignorance is not bliss at perimenopause. We need to know what's going on so that we can then be solution focused. Now, I'm going to read you something here from the Body Logic survey, which was done in 2018. And I'm going to put a link up there to the actual Body Logic survey itself, because it's absolutely fascinating and tells you why you need to educate yourself. So, overall, menopausal and postmenopausal women reported menopause to be 27% less disruptive than premenopausal women predicted. So, is it all in our heads? Are we worrying for no reason? Is 27% less disruptive than premenopausal women predicted? Yes, it's disruptive, but is it that disruptive? So we need to understand that some of our symptoms, our menopausal symptoms, are just change. And even though they feel scary, there's good reason for them, and it doesn't mean that you're going to have a stroke. It doesn't mean you're going to have a heart attack. It doesn't mean you're going to keel over and die tomorrow or get osteoporosis. We do have to think about those things, of course. We do have to think long term, but in the short term, maybe our symptoms are not as dramatic as we think they are. So, and I'm going to point to that in a second. Hi, Tara. Well, you've said me too. I don't know what you're referring to, but when I look back, I will be able to check that. So this Body Logic survey was a huge survey done in 2018, and another stat from the survey shows that women grossly overestimate how bad hot flushes are actually going to interfere with their lives. So they may not interfere at all or very much, or you might find that you can cope with them just fine. You can actually do visualization exercises to help the hot flushes diminish and to help them just pass through you without worrying about them too much. But we are going to talk about hot flushes in tip number 2, so just hold fire with me. So if you're having a hot flush or a panic attack, or feeling sad or feeling angry, knowing it could be the fluctuating hormones, it can help you to reframe the feeling. But here's the caveat. We do need to be careful about blaming everything on bad menopause, okay? Because lifestyle plays a huge part in making our menopausal symptoms easier, all right? So this is why educating yourself on how to eat better, how to sleep better, what kind of exercise to take for you, managing your stress so that you can be solution orientated. So education is part of the solution, and there's a lot out there that you can educate yourselves on. There are online courses that you can do. So much. Ask me if you want advice. So we can drive ourselves into the ground worrying about menopause. This symptom or that symptom, what on earth is happening to me? Some days the sensations are worse than others. Some days the sensations feel perfectly normal. But the thing is, we have to start to see our symptoms differently, rather than feeling like we're being victimized by our symptoms. We need to start seeing our symptoms as a clue to what is going on underneath. Maybe it's blood sugar, maybe it's sleep, maybe it's you're not managing your stress properly, maybe you're not moving enough, maybe you're moving too much, maybe you need more rest. So our symptoms help us find solutions, and we need to stop blaming them for making our lives miserable. Even though I get it, they do sometimes. bloody awful. Right, so I want to read you this. The Body Logic survey said this too. Women who are prepared to acclimate, so to acclimatise to their new lives with menopause, with these symptoms, were more likely to experience positive emotional responses. And I love that. This is about acclimatising. And I know that I have kind of acclimatised to stress a bit more. I've acclimatized to anxiety a bit more. I've acclimatized to moods. I've acclimatized to dizziness a bit more. And it doesn't freak me out when I experience those things like it used to. It's much more manageable for me now to deal with all of that because I'm acclimatizing to it. It takes a bit of time, but at first it can be quite a shock to the system, which is where that fear and anxiety comes in. So feelings of femininity and maturity were common among women who were educated about symptoms versus women who weren't. Again, another reason why you need to educate yourself, because you're going to feel mature, you're going to feel in control, you're going to feel more feminine, or you might do anyway. So acceptance of menopause, that this was actually happening, offered feelings of relief. Oh, it's just the menopause. That's great. It helps you to relax around it. So the most important thing on this journey, especially this journey to recovery and journey to educating yourself and wanting to do something different, is to really meet yourself where you're at. So there's absolutely no point, if you've never exercised before, signing up for the marathon. You know, if your stress levels are really high, there's no point in trying to go on Vipassana and do a 10-day silent retreat. You've got to meet yourself where you're at, and you've got to bring yourself back down to homeostasis, which means balance, gently, slowly and methodically. The slower you do it, the more likely you are to stick to it. So it's really important to meet yourself where you're at. So I would like you, actually, and this is my invitation to you, to let me know what you are going to do. Let me know what you struggle with, and let me know what you are thinking about changing in your life in order to make your menopause easier. It's not something that you have to commit to 100% right now, but perhaps something that you feel is not working quite well, and you actually do need to start thinking about making some changes. Maybe I'll be able to help you. Okay, tip number 2. This is about balancing your blood sugar. So just to recap, the overarching discussion is around fear and anxiety in menopause. Now, people always overlook blood sugar when it comes to fear and anxiety and menopause. So reducing your carbs and the old white refined sugar during this time is going to have a massive impact on your anxiety. Really, really big. So in essence, blood sugar fluctuations stimulate adrenaline, which of course is going to make you feel more anxious and more fearful. So it's the high doses of adrenaline at play during menopause which really cause this heightened anxiety. So it's so important to understand what's going on here, and in order to understand this we have to talk about hot flushes a little bit. So hot flushes are a very bothersome symptom at perimenopause, and hot flushes are there to compensate for the lack of glucose being delivered to the brain. Right, let me explain. So perimenopause, estrogen helps to push glucose to the brain, and if it's declining because of stress or perimenopause, your brain could potentially get starved of glucose, and that cannot happen, right? It needs glucose to function. So as a result, you get a surge of adrenaline in order to push more glucose into the blood, and wherever there's a surge of adrenaline, you get heat, you get activity, you get increased energy in the body, increased output, you're going to sweat. So effectively that's what a hot flush is. It's increased adrenaline. And if you look at anyone that suffers with diabetes, when they're having a hypo, they're sweating, right? So, you know, it's an fear and anxiety at menopause, I believe, is a blood sugar issue. And, a lot of people are really resistant to changing their blood sugar because it's tough, because we get a massive dopamine hit every time we go for some carbs or we go for some sugar. So it's hugely important to work on your blood sugar, and you've got to really find the right protocol for you. If you're vegan, you need to look at what you can do to stabilize your blood sugar through the day. For me, I've had to start eating more meat for lunch and dinner. I've had to start eating much bigger meals rather than, rushing a little bit of food here and there. Actually sit down and make sure my meal has got a beginning, middle and an end, rather than just, I'll have a few nuts here and then an hour later have a little bit there and then an hour later have a little bit there. Because your body does so much repair work in between meals, and if we're constantly eating, it's not able to get to that repair work, and the blood sugar is going to be doing this. So for me, I've had to eat more meat, I've had to eat bigger meals and then less snacking. But you've got to find what works for you. I'm not here to preach, I'm not here to tell you how to live your lifestyle. Again, there's no one size fits all. So what I find with my clients is there's a lot of resistance to giving up sugar, loads of resistance to giving up sugar, and it's quite difficult. And often this can come from, childhood behaviours, but also, sugar masks trauma and it suppresses emotions. So when you're giving up the sugar, it all starts coming out, and it can make you feel more anxious. And then you're like, oh no, I can't do that. Bring the sugar back. So somewhere we need to go in and break that cycle. And often that's why I work quite well with functional medicine practitioners, because I provide the mindset stuff and help clients to really understand what's going on with their trauma so that they can deal with the trauma, they can let the emotions out, deal with the childhood programming, change the childhood programming, and kind of get on with creating healthy, sustainable habits that don't involve binging on sugar every night. Tara, you've said, I struggle with stress. There's not a lot I can do as it's a stressful, busy time of my life. I get overwhelmed. Well, maybe we can have a chat about that, because there is always something that you can do. There's a perspective shift. There's always time to fit in 10 minutes. If you haven't got 10 minutes to fit in some breathing exercises, then we really do need to have a conversation about work-life balance. So before I give you my final 2 tips, I would like to give you some information about RTT, and just to let you know how RTT could help you if you're really struggling. So RTT is short for Rapid Transformational Therapy, and that's what I do. I'm also a wellbeing coach, and I help people to sort of change the past programming from the past, from their childhood. And this could be language, this could be old beliefs, this could be, negative beliefs, lack beliefs, beliefs it's not available to me, beliefs I'll never change, beliefs it has to be this way, beliefs I'm not lovable, I don't deserve health, I don't deserve wealth, I don't deserve love, I don't deserve success. Those very, very subconscious beliefs that we have, all of us have, but perhaps we're not aware of them, and perhaps they are on some level holding us back. So RTT is powerful because, unlike standard psychotherapy, it's done using the power of the subconscious mind. You're laying down, you're reclined, you've got your eyes closed, you're very relaxed, and you're in a highly suggestible state of mind. So that's what we do. We go back to scenes in your life where you might have picked up these beliefs, and you've turned them into imprints, and you've carried them through your adult life. Then what we do, once we've got clarity, once we've got understanding, we can reframe them. We can use language to rewire the meaning that you attached to those scenes, so that you can start to really just live your life again the way that nature intended for you, to be free of all of these limiting beliefs, so that you can have health, wealth, happiness, love, and all of those things that you want. Good sleep, a good career, all of those things. So what else do I want to say about it? Yes, the reason it's powerful is because it's rapid and it's rooted in the neuroscience of neuroplasticity. When we use new language, when we create new patterns, we build new superhighways in the brain. So there is formed a new habit. And it's really about repetition. So when you come and see me, you get a recording, which rewires your brain, it rewires your mindset, which is so powerful. So the regression itself, the RTT session itself, helps to jumpstart your motivation. It catapults you, and you're like full of energy and you want to go out into the world and you want to start changing things. You're motivated. But then the recording that you listen to every day, which is only 20 minutes, really embeds that transition in. So a lot of therapists don't like you recording their sessions, but we do. We encourage it because you need to listen to it over and over and over again. Just the positive aspects, by the way, not the negative aspects. So yeah, RTT is great. I do loads of it. I work online. I work in Brighton, and I've got clients all around the world. So working with me is like working with me for a month. So you'd have your RTT session, you get your recording, you get WhatsApp support, which is like having me as a pocket therapist if you need me in an SOS moment. And we also do 2 follow-up coaching calls as well. And all of that costs $347. And if you need a payment plan, we can do payment plans as well. And just to say that most people only do require 1 session, but if the blocks are deeply embedded, then you can have 2 or 3, but most people don't need more than 3 sessions. So if you think that RTT might be something that you fancy trying, then please just drop me a line, drop me a direct message. Maybe you have a question, maybe you want to book a consultation, which is free, by the way, no obligation to sign up, then go ahead and do that. All right, so my third tip to help reduce anxiety and fear during perimenopause is to stop fighting it. Stop fighting anxiety, stop fighting panic, stop fighting depression if there's depression there. We've got to work with those feelings. We've got to take away the resistance and just work with. So it's very, very easy to compound anxiety by worrying about anxiety, by thinking that you are wrong for feeling this way, by thinking that you are going mad for feeling this way, by feeling shameful about your anxiety or depression or panic or fear. So all of these negative feelings about the anxiety makes the anxiety worse because it makes you release more adrenaline. And when you get more adrenaline, you get more anxiety. So you end up in a loop. And if you want to get better, somehow you got to go in and break that loop. Unless you like the story of being stressed. And I know that sounds silly, but some people do like their stress story. It validates them. You know, remember back in the 90s where people used to really brag about, oh, I've only had 1 hour's sleep, or I've been out the night before, or, you know, people like their stress. And it's obviously still happens today, but, you know, it's really not, it's not a badge, because if you're poorly, you're not able to give to your loved ones, you're certainly not able to give to yourself, you're not able to give to the community, and it's sort of a vicious cycle, really. Anyway, I digress slightly there, but this is about, where was I? I was talking about not compounding your anxiety with extra anxiety or extra worry, because that makes you release more adrenaline. So this is about learning to be calm, learning to give yourself what you need, go with the flow, trust your body. And, you know, when it comes to anxiety, your body really does know what it's doing. So adrenaline is actually keeping you alive, right? It's an amazing drug. It saved my partner's life when he was given too much morphine. They give you a shot of adrenaline and you wake up. It resets the body. It's amazing. It just doesn't feel nice when you're not using it up. So when you're not running, or when you're not giving a talk or something, when there's no exercise or exertion, if you're not using it up, it feels pretty horrible because the heart's pounding. So learning some really good stress management techniques as a way to stop throwing fuel on the fire, to interrupt that thought pattern, is going to be really beneficial for you. So things like, having an RTT session, of course, is going to be brilliant for that, but also learning mindfulness, learning meditation, doing breathing exercises, getting out in nature, finding ways of getting this adrenaline to come down. Of course, addressing blood sugar as well. Or, doing something nice for yourself. Touch. When we get touched, we release certain chemicals that make us feel safe, make us feel secure and bonded to another human being. So getting a massage or getting some Reiki. And you might think to yourself, well, I don't have time for that and I can't afford it. But my response would be, well, can you really not afford it? Can you afford not to? What's the price you're going to pay if you don't start looking after yourself at this time, especially at perimenopause? Because things can get worse if we don't break the cycle, if we don't come in and start treating ourselves with the love and respect and self-care that we deserve. And interestingly, a lot of my clients have blocks to self-care. That's why the RTT work that I do in menopause is so closely linked. There's a lot of self-sabotage going on with some ladies at perimenopause and beyond. They just can't find it within themselves to look after themselves or put themselves first. And that's a big block to your health, your community, and your family as well. So tip number 4, get connected. Absolutely. I had a bit of a midlife crisis a couple of years ago, and one thing I noticed was that I didn't have any deep, meaningful friendships. And I have spent the last 2 years really working on those deep, meaningful relationships, because I felt so unsafe last year. What had happened was I'd split up with my partner for the second time. He'd moved out and I felt really, really alone. I felt really isolated. Mum and Dad live in London. I live in Brighton, so it's not like we could just get to see each other. They weren't round the corner. And I just realised, oh my God, I haven't prioritised friendships. And there was something within me that didn't want to be open, didn't want to connect, didn't want to show people the real me. I was afraid of being vulnerable. So by learning to form new relationships and deeper relationships and actually showing vulnerability in relationships, I've really helped to ease menopausal anxiety, because I now feel supported. I now feel like I have somebody that I can call in the middle of the night when the shit hits the fan, and they're going to be at the end. We all need a person. If you don't have a partner, if you don't have a parent, if you don't have a sibling, I'm an only child, if you don't have cousins, you need people around you. We live in a world that is so hyper connected but so disconnected. So actually making an effort, being proactive in deepening your relationships is so important. And I always recommend this to my clients that feel this way and say you've got to be proactive. You can't wait for people to come to you or invite you out. You've got to be the one that invites people out or creates a gathering of some sort or goes somewhere to meet people. Now, you don't have to be needy about it. You don't have to be overwhelming to other people. You don't have to latch on. And in cases where there's been a lot of trauma, sometimes you can find that somebody latches onto another person. This is called fawning, and that can be quite difficult because that forms a codependency. But it's really about balance. So you don't want to isolate, but you don't want to become too codependent either. Maybe I'll do another live on codependency. So what have you said? I can relate to putting off self-care, Tara. Yeah, we all do, me included. I have to make a bit of a concerted effort to put the self-care first. And I've got a nice massage booked in this week at Uniquely Organic in Hove, which is great. I've got some Reiki booked in next week, just to enable me to switch off really and have some me time. And I know it's a cliche, you know, oh, you need me time, self-care. It's such a word that's bandied around, but it's so much more than just self-care. It's actually about looking after your hormones, looking after your muscles, your blood, your brain, your bones, your digestive system, and so much more, so that you can function in everyday life. Tara, you've said, I find it difficult to be vulnerable in relationships. Everyone expects me to be strong. You know what? I feel for you. I really do. And I know what that's like. I don't know if you're a mum, but especially, you know, mums do feel that pressure. You know, they have to be strong. They have to get the house clean. They have to go to work. They have to, you know, do all of these things and present a united front. And often that's not the truth of it. That's not the way that we feel on the inside. We feel, you know, we have a lot of complex emotions as human beings on the inside, and often we don't want to be seen as weak. We don't want to scare people off with our crying or with our vulnerability. So I totally get that. But you might want to check out Brené Brown if you don't know of her already. She's an amazing teacher, and she talks a lot about the power of vulnerability and how we all just want to really show our vulnerable selves. And in that sense, we are all the same, you know. And there's something called mirror neurons. So we have them in our brains. That's how pornography works. So if you watch someone having sex, you get turned on yourself. But in the same way, if you watch someone crying, you feel like crying yourself. Or if you watch someone throw up, you feel like throwing up yourself. So that's the mirror neuron. And actually, if you're presenting your vulnerability first, the other person will feel safer to show their vulnerable self as well. So actually what we're doing by being vulnerable is paving the way for, we're being leaders actually. We're blazing the trail for other people to be authentic, just let that guard down, just say, you know what, it's not okay, I need help. And I think in perimenopause, we forget to ask for help. We do need more help at this time in our life. We need help so that we can adjust and so that we can acclimatise, because that acclimatisation takes time, doesn't it? And while we're acclimatising, we need help. You know, this time last year, I needed so much more help than I need today. So today, now, I've been in a fitness training program with my trainer since September, and I have a stronger body. I have a much stronger body than I had before. So I need less help lifting things, you know, doing washing, lifting, shopping bags, and just generally, you know, general life stuff. My back's stronger, and because my body's stronger, my mind is stronger as well. So I actually need I need less emotional support on the daily, but if I do need it, it's there for me because I've built up those deep friendships. Yes, you said you are a mum. Yeah, you know, we feel pinched, don't we? I'm not a mum, but I'm a stepmum and going through a few problems with stepdaughter at the moment. She doesn't live with us, but even so, you do feel that sense of responsibility. So I totally understand. And I think the thing is, excuse me, I think the thing is to really ask yourself what it is that you need and see if you can start to put some things into place to make that happen. But if you want to have a phone call, Tara, I'm more than happy to share some time with you over the phone, perhaps give you a little bit more clarity. So anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this live. I've really enjoyed it. I love my new camera, and I hope you've got the benefit of having a bit more clarity and being able to see a bit more of me. Yeah, any comments, any questions, please do let me know, and I will see you next week. I'll see you Monday. Bye.